morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. Welcome to the Mindfulness broadcast. I am sharing an article with you from Harvard Business Review. I just put it in the chat. Came out in January, end of January of 2024, and it's called How to Stop Dwelling on Your Stress. And I love this article. It's short, it's powerful, and it leaves you with tools, which is always, I think, such a great combination. And it starts out by just saying, so this is in January, kind of pre-political chaos that is happening right now. So in January, I'm going to guess the number has increased. It was 76% of Americans, so US Americans, report that stress is affecting their well-being. 76. And now, again, there's no science or research behind this, but I'm going to guess that has if we retested that number would be increased. And so I want you to just think about that for a minute. One, what is well-being to you? What does that mean? Peace of mind, ease, maybe physical health, mental health. So kind of letting that settle in. What does that mean for you? And how is stress impacting that for you? Is it decreasing it, increasing it, in good balance, in a toxic relationship between stress and well-being? Just consider that there's no right or wrong, but probably, according to this study, 3/4 of us would say that it is impacting our well-being. And so she goes on in this article to talk about something that I think a lot and teach a lot about, which is our relationship with stress, our relationship with ourself, and this idea of, chronic stress versus acute stress versus chronic stress and prolonged stress. And so she particularly uses this phrase, which I like. She calls it preservation cognition, which is essentially our unique ability as humans to take an acute stress, so something that's happening right now in this moment, and then just really spread that thing on, right? Like overthinking it, ruminating about it, worrying about it, the things that we do, which take something this big and then we layer it on. So there's one particular stressor and then we just keep layering it on, layer on. So we take something this big and make it that big or this big, and take it from something that might be here right now in this moment to spread out over how is this going to impact my entire lifetime or my entire relationship, right? So maybe you don't do that, but I'm guessing that you do. And so this article goes on to give us several tips of how to do that, how to keep acute stress, how to keep stress that's in this moment. And there's 4 of them, but I'm going to focus on 2 of them. And one of them is to anchor ourselves in this particular moment. And we do that a lot in mindfulness through our breath, through body scans, through, all sorts of things. And then another one is to take our thoughts less seriously. And so really observing our thoughts and then maybe bringing some reality to those, bringing our prefrontal cortex into the rumination of limbic brain and survival brain. And so an example I want to share is we do public facing work where we're, training coaches and coaching people. And then we also do contract work with state and federal organizations and really amazing folks, many of which you are a part of. And we had this was about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, probably 3 months ago, contracts that I'm in were having some issues paying on time. And meanwhile, I have teams of people doing really amazing work that I'm paying, right? And so there was this period of floating that I called it. And I didn't feel at ease. And so it was definitely what we would call acute stress, right? I've got money trickling in and money flowing out. And so there's some acute stress for me in that as a business owner of, okay, what are my options here? And But what happened is that there was a particular incident on a Friday where I knew, payroll was coming out on Monday or Tuesday or somewhere in the beginning of the week. The payment was supposed to come in, and I had this weekend now. That was also spring. There were things happening in my children's life. That's one of my favorite seasons. So there's blossoms and the birds are returning, and there's robins and bluebirds and sweet peas and all these beautiful things happening. And what I found is that weekend I was prolonging my stress. So I was taking something that I could not do anything about over the weekend, and spreading it out into my experience. And so what was happening is I was missing my actual life based on something that I was stuck in the middle of, had no control over. And the rumination and the overthinking was not helping me, right? It's lowering me down into my body. My brain, our brains are not timekeeping machines in terms of our emotions. So if I'm imagining scenarios like, oh, my business is going to shut down, I'm not going to be able to pay anybody, I'm catastrophizing and rehearsing chaos of what this is going to look like. Over the weekend, what's happening is I'm elevating my stress response. I'm getting cortisol all over into my system, and adrenaline, and getting further away from my part of my brain that could really think through and be solution focused. And it's fascinating part of how we are as humans, and it's left over from these, like, there's an issue and I need to go big and respond, my stress response, but it doesn't really work in our current set of stressors. And so what could I do in that weekend? What could I do in that moment? And by the way, it's still happening. It's not fully resolved. So here we are all these months later. And my thoughts over that weekend, when I really dropped into them, were so catastrophic. And so this is when I went searching for this article, was, okay, let me anchor in what is. And I literally would go out in my backyard, which is where I am right now, and I would look at beautiful things. And I just notice the smallest things and listen to my family talk and anchor myself in what is happening right now in this present moment. And then the other thing was just to explore my thoughts. Is this true? I do have resources. I do have options. There's nothing I can do about it right now. I know I grew up struggling financially. Money was not a place of ease in my family as we grew up. I know this is a trigger for me. So just kind of dropping back in and getting my whole brain and whole body involved. So I'm leaving you with that. What stressors can we keep small? Can we keep acute and not make them bigger, not keep layering on to those things? I think there are probably many. So let's develop those skills. So go ahead, close your eyes, or you can take a soft gaze. What I want to do this morning, as you're allowing your breath to just settle in. I came outside on purpose because what I want to invite you to do is allow your anchor this morning to be what you're hearing. It's a perfect on cue from Pavarotti, my rooster. Maybe for you, it's office sounds and people are talking, doors are opening, keyboards are going. Maybe you have a home office and you're hearing the chatter of people or traffic. So allow yourself to anchor in what you are currently hearing. And if hearing is not where you land, allow it to be some other sensation. You might open up your eyes and notice what you're seeing. You might experiment with going as far out as you can hear. Maybe you can hear airplanes 30,000 feet above. And experiment with going in. Can you hear the rush of blood in your eardrums? Can you hear maybe if you have earrings on and they're dangling or jingling? I'm going to be quiet for a moment. Just let you experience this. As you're listening or looking or feeling, you might remind yourself of a few things like, I'm safe, I have resources. And if you have a particular stressor that you can bring to mind and it feels safe to do so, do that. And if you don't, that's okay. Don't go searching. Just allow yourself to listen, knowing that probably be able to use these skills very soon. Just observe your thoughts around that stressor. We are wired to protect and to think through safety and to use our old mental maps of the world to be more efficient in our thought processes, to use universal default resting states of our brain, which is just kind of habitual thinking patterns. We use all of those in a split second to try to fix our problems. So we might find that we're using old brain pathways to try to think of solutions. Observe some of those thoughts, asking yourself questions like, is that always true? Is that thought mine? Or is that put into me from other circumstances in my life? What else might be true? What do I have control of right now in this moment? Can I bring humor into this? Can I bring curiosity into this? How can I take this with a little more humility? What could I do to build my resiliency? Can I take my thoughts less seriously? And I know for me over that weekend, I had to keep coming back to this practice. It wasn't a one time where I walked out and got present and explored my thoughts, and then my whole weekend was blissful, right? It kept creeping in. Old coping mechanisms wanted to keep coming back. I had to keep grounding and keep exploring. As we begin to close, just find your breath in your body this morning. Another great anchoring tool. As I breathe in and out, I feel my whole body just expand, open up. And when you're ready, come back to that hearing, that anchor that you used. Do you hear those sounds? And finally, opening your eyes and coming back together. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm going to put that link for the article for the Harvard Business Review article in the chat again. Go check it out. I think it's a great one, how to stop dwelling on your stress. Be well, everyone. Take care. Bye.